families and staff during this very difficult and traumatic time. I want to thank the counselors at JCPS and throughout the community who are offering their time and guidance and creating a safe space for students to grieve. Gun violence in Louisville and throughout the country is exacting a devastating human toll. This can never be the normal. Just today, the New York Times reported that the nation experienced the biggest rise in murder last year since the FBI began keeping the data more than 60 years ago. So while this is a problem in our city that we need to take care of, there is a broader context, obviously, that this is a challenge that the entire country is facing right now. So we need our own solutions and our own institutions and individuals coming together to combine our best efforts and to work as one to defeat this violence. We can do this as people, as human beings that care about each other. But we need to change some things, and we need to take action to do that. To get the latest on the case from yesterday, I'd like to bring up LMPD Chief Erica Shields to give us that update. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon. The department has received multiple tips from the public, and we are truly appreciative for each and every one of them. And we are pursuing several leads, some of which are a direct result of the aforementioned tips. So I can't say enough about the community's involvement and how critical it's been. Yesterday, while I was here, we had asked for the assistance of the public in locating a vehicle of interest. Specifically, it was a Jeep. St. Matthews Police Department found the vehicle yesterday. It was on fire. The Jeep had been stolen prior to the shooting. It is now being processed by our homicide unit and ID technicians. The FBI, ATF, and Kentucky State Patrol have been assisting us on multiple fronts in processing multiple pieces of information, and we remain grateful for their support. We're going to continue to diligently work this case until an arrest has been made. And I would ask that the public remain involved. And by that, I mean, if anyone is in the area of where the vehicle was recovered or where the shooting occurred, please, please, please check your cameras, see if there's any footage that may be of use. And should you identify anything, please reach out to LMPD. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you to the men and women of LMPD. Many have been working around the clock on this case and many others, so we appreciate your all's good work. I'd like to now ask Dr. Monique Williams, the Director of our Office for Safe and Healthy Neighborhoods, to speak. The Office for Safe and Healthy Neighborhoods provides assistance and resources to our city's most vulnerable and at-risk residents. And in the wake of this tragedy, she had her outreach caseworkers deployed to schools, University of Louisville Hospital, and in the community through Ocean's Pivot to Peace initiative. And tonight, Ocean is hosting a Safe Haven event in partnership with Russell, A Place of Promise, and other local faith leaders. I'd like to thank the Metro Council for working with us to have a much larger budget for Ocean and non-law enforcement responses to public safety issues with this budget that was passed July the 1st. So a lot of this activity that you're seeing now is happening because of these additional resources. So that's a good thing for our community. So Dr. Williams, please provide us more details.
Thank you, Mayor. So our office is still at this point in crisis stabilization mode. As the mayor mentioned, you know, we had teams deployed to these different locations. For us, it's for that immediate kind of stabilization of what is happening. A lot of times emotions are high, and we know that within that first kind of 72 hours, that's the most critical time when there could be potential retaliation. And so we're trying to be in front of that. And so our outreach workers are continuing to work the angles and the things that they've learned to ensure that, you know, nobody is making any decisions to do something that they shouldn't do from an emotional place, and also providing support to the community. We were at the vigils last night, and we were providing support, violence prevention resources. We also heard a lot of complaints from community about the street light being out at that bus stop. And so understanding risk factors for violence within the built environment, lighting is one of those things. And so today we've been working with Public Works to see if that's a Metro issue or an LG&E issue so that we can get that lighting fixed. And then, as the mayor said, that we're having our Safe Haven event tonight at a local church close to where the event took place, where we will have mental health professionals, grief counselors, and a lot of faith leaders come into a space, and it's open to community. It's open to those who experienced yesterday to some degree or another and need some time and need some help to process that through in a safe space within this church facility. And so we have that event happening this evening, and I mean, we'll be continuing to work on the front of ensuring that there's no retaliation associated with the event of yesterday, and connecting with those who are at highest risk at the moment. Thank you. Sure. The event that the Safe Haven is taking place at is Moore Temple Church of Christ, and it's on Broadway.
What's it, 26?
It's 23rd.
23rd and Broadway. Okay. All right, and I can say that lighting issue has been referred by Public Works to LG&E, and LG&E's issued a work order on that, so that's underway. Now, yesterday, we talked about a lot of things, but we talked about the need of everybody in the community to say, what can I do to help? And for community members to step up. None of us can do this work alone. And today we have an announcement from a leader with a strong history and track record of leadership in our community doing just that. He's not only an esteemed reverend and preacher in our community, but he also stepped up a couple of years ago to run for the school board. Rarely do you see this kind of combination. So I always have appreciated the good work of Pastor Corey Scholl, and today is another great example of his and his team and his fellowship of ministers' great leadership here. So, Pastor Scholl.
Thank you, Mayor Fisher, to all the members of the media and LMPD and fellow citizens. My name is Corey Scholl. I serve as pastor of the Burnett Avenue Baptist Church here in Louisville, Kentucky, and also as the 6th District Representative on the Jefferson County Board of Education. Our community was gripped by grief and outrage yesterday as a consequence of the unthinkable tragedy that happened on a school bus stop. Yesterday we mourned, and today our community has sprung into action. Early this morning, men and women all over Louisville rose early and stood at bus stops to provide a sense of safety and support as students faced another day. Today, I stand with other clergy. I have Reverend Robert Drake with me, Reverend David Snarden, Reverend Matthew Smizer, to announce that there has been the gathering of a few clergy persons throughout this city who have raised money to provide a reward for the tip that leads to the arrest and the conviction of the person who perpetuated this tragedy. We have chosen to take this step as a means to draw the line and to say unequivocally that while we cannot rid our city entirely of the violence that is plaguing us, we will do all that is within our power to ensure that our children, every child in this city, can at least stand at school bus stops safely. School bus stops should be safe zones, and every member of our community should respect them as such. Over 60,000 children stand at bus stops every single morning with their band instruments in hand or their athletic bags in tow, looking over the information for that test that they studied all night for one last time. And we want to ensure that they'll stand there in peace. School bus stops ought to be safe spaces without question. We hope that by providing this reward, that it will serve as an incentive for members of our community who have information to speak up. The community must share the information, the intelligence that they have with law enforcement to ensure that we have a resolution to this unspeakable tragedy. There most certainly are those who would question why provide this type of reward in this incident when you have not provided these types of rewards in other instances. And the answer is simple. This is not about one child. This is about all of our children. What makes this situation unique is that over 60,000 of our children stand at bus stops every single day. Dr. Polio and educators across this city have done an incredible job opening up school buildings during a pandemic, which is a Herculean task. The least this community can do is to make sure that our children get into these buildings safely. We hope that by providing this reward, it inspires members of our community with knowledge of the incident that happened on yesterday morning to come forward with all speediness. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. We appreciate y'all stepping up for our community, and hopefully that will get some more people's attention. The Louisville Metro Police Foundation is also another valuable partner to the city and LMPD and just our general citizens at large. And Tracy Texas is the executive director of the Police Foundation, and now will share a few thoughts with us. Tracy?
Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to be able to work with the community, with Pastor Scholl and his fellow clergy, to hopefully help bring justice to the people responsible for this senseless act of violence. We want to thank Pastor Scholl and your team for helping in this effort. Thank you.
Well, the Police Foundation will be administering the reward, and the reward is $10,000. So we, again, hope that inspires some folks to do the right thing with or without the money. But if this money helps for whatever reason, then we need justice to be served. So yesterday you heard a lot of emotion in the city. You also heard exhortations to act. Councilman Arthur said it beautifully yesterday when he said, everyone in Louisville is responsible for Louisville. I want to thank all of the people that have called my office over the last 28 hours or so, asking, how can I help? And offering different ways to help. And those are signs of a strong community when we come together to support each other through times like this and not turn on each other. So I really appreciate the general citizenry for coming forward, and specifically here today, Pastor Scholl, Pastor Drake, and your team. With that, we'll take any questions from the media. Lawrence?
Chief Shields, St. Matthew's police were able to get to that car and put it out pretty quickly. Were they able to, as far as you can say, preserve some of the evidence by how quickly they acted?
I think we're very grateful for the steps that they took and the vehicles currently being processed in partnership with our federal and state partners.
Chief Shields, can you say whether there had been shots fired at that bus stop previously?
I don't know.
And then can you tell us anything about whether there were any gang activity that may have been related to this incident?
Not at this time, no.
And finally, is there any information about the J-Town High School situation that is going on right now? Is LMP assisting in that?
So for any parents that may be listening, there are no reports of injuries at J-Town. There's no reports of injuries at J-Town. All of the children thus far are doing fine. There is a report of someone who may have entered into the school with a gun. We are in a support role to J-Town, but there's no injuries at this time.
Chief Shields, is LMPD making any immediate changes to combat violent crime? And as a follow-up, either way, can you talk a little bit more about the violent crime task force that was in one or two police divisions?
So Certainly, and I mean, I think I'll probably talk to you offline a bit, because I really don't want to distract from what we're here for today, and that is, we need to make an arrest for Tyree, and we need the focus here to be for folks to step forward. There are people who know who shot and killed him yesterday, and those individuals need to step forward, and the space that we're operating in of not snitching and not cooperating with police when homicides occur has got to end. It's just not, it's not how we as a society, we're better than this. We're better than this. And this isn't the first time we've run into this. And so I would say to those individuals, whether you're the parent of the child, a friend of the shooter, I don't know, whatever your relationship is, and you know who committed yesterday's homicide, you need to step forward, because it's the correct thing to do. And that needs to be our focus today. And thank you, Reverend, for being so willing to put forward such a generous donation. If money motivates people where conscience won't, we'll take it. Thank you for stepping forward. We'll put this forward at a later date, but it was stolen prior to yesterday's shooting, yes. Again, we'll put forward further information at a later date.
So let me just say, so the purpose of this press conference here was to focus on what the reward is that LMPD might be providing access later on. Are there any other questions other than for the chief?
Mayor Fisher, I have a question. You mentioned people calling in interested in finding a way to help. Obviously, this kind of tragedy, homicides of young people have been happening for a while, and now that people are paying attention, what is your message for people who might want to try and make a difference?
Well, first and foremost, it starts in the family, right? I mean, most all of these kids that have guns, someone in their family knows about it, right? So first and foremost is if your child has a gun, the odds of your child being involved with a shooting are very high. So regardless of what the circumstances are, that needs to stop. Now, they may say it's not easy to stop. Okay, that's where our Office for Safe and Healthy Neighborhoods comes in. We can talk to the family, understand what these issues are, provide resources so that they can get out of whatever life they're in. Once you get in a life of crime, especially violent crime, it's very unusual to get out of that unscathed. So we first off need people just to say, we're not going to tolerate this in our family. If the families are broken, then it's the broader community that's involved with this. On a bigger picture standpoint from Safe and Healthy Neighborhoods, do you want to dive into some of the opportunities that we have here, Monique? Because we're really trying to get people, as you know, to focus on safe and healthy neighborhoods. We've got a robust response right now with lots of ways for people to get involved. Don't really need to create a lot of new things, need people to support the programs that we've got underway. So Monique will talk more about those.
Sure. So on the side of doing prevention work, we have several opportunities for, everyday citizens to get engaged in violence prevention work. If it's not just, people calling us to ask us how they can get involved in different things, and us being able to connect them to the community spaces that are engaged in particular kinds of work in some of our high priority communities, we can do that. But within our office, we also have our Ambassador Institute, and some of these projects are still new that came with this new funding cycle. What people are familiar with is our Ambassador program. And I encourage anybody who's a general citizen who is interested in getting engaged in violence prevention to sign up for one of our ambassador programs. In that ambassador program, it's kind of like Violence Prevention 101. We teach you about what violence is, how it happens, and why it shows up inequitably in some of our communities. We teach people conflict resolution skills. We do some community organization and community organizing work to help people know how to bring people together to address things. We look at suicide, youth mental health first aid. And what's newly being added now is Stop the Bleed trainings, because as we saw yesterday, there are people who show up on scene and don't know what to do. And so how can we build the capacity of the everyday citizen to be able to engage in a violence prevention effort. We're building out a capacity building fellowship for our grassroots organizations. We have a lot of organizations in the community that are doing the work and have limited resources to do the work. So how can we build that capacity for them to be the assets that they are in our community, but operate more effectively and efficiently in our community with resources and assistance? And then we have our community mobilization project where, again, encouraging everyday citizens to get involved, where we're gonna be working in 6 of our priority neighborhoods, and we're gonna be working with general community members, social service agencies, all of who want to be involved in building out specific neighborhood-based strategies for violence prevention in those communities. And those really are meant to address multiple risk factors for violence. We have this understanding that violence is just this interpersonal thing where one person harms another person, or maybe somebody just woke up yesterday and decided they were going to shoot somebody today. It doesn't happen that way. There are multiple factors that led up to, and there are multiple social conditions that play into why we see the outcomes that we see. And so building out plans that address those things. What are the social issues? What are the social norms that contribute to violence? What are the built environment factors, like we saw with fixing a light in that community, that could help make violence reduce in that space? So doing that work with community is something that we are going to gear up to do, and we invite everybody to engage in those ways as well. And then we have our networking nights where we bring together violence prevention experts and people who do the work to be able to talk to community about what's happening and the work that they're doing and how they can engage in it. So we have multiple venues for people to get engaged in the violence prevention work.
And I think, Darcy, on like a more practical level, you know, it's watch your kids' social media. I mean, so much of this comes out of social media. And yesterday afternoon, I was with a group of young people and took that opportunity to ask them about this. And one of them said, you know, we all want to trend on social media. But unfortunately, with a lot of our youth, what's trending is acts of violence, acts of misogyny, you know, undesirable behavior that they recognize. So watch your kids' social media. If you have a family account for texting, you know, you should be reading your kids' texts and seeing what kind of activity that they are engaged with. I mean, if you love your child, you're going to do it, because we see way too much of this end up in consequences like yesterday. I'm not saying any of this will stop everything, but you've got to know what your kid, your grandkid is up to. And then just the 2 other programs I'll mention is our Reimage program. We've talked about that before. It's had really good success. That's where we pair a mentor with a young person that hasn't finished high school yet in a job. You know, we've had 70% success rate with that. The national average is like 48%, so success being non-recidivism. And then, of course, the SummerWorks program. We've got all kinds of good data that shows that kids that are involved with SummerWorks have a less proclivity to engage in criminal behavior. So everybody can get involved some way.
Mr. Mayor, for those with information who are interested in that reward, what numbers are they calling specifically? Who specifically do they reach out to?
Do we want the 574 LMPD? Okay. Yep. 574 LMPD.
We have time for one more question.
Yesterday, the president shared a lot of focus on SROs and police in schools. In this specific case, do you think that would have helped since it happened at a school bus stop where typically SROs aren't located?
No, there's a lot of things covered yesterday. And, you know, one of the questions about school resource officers is, you know, how is a school resource officer best prepared to present themselves in the school? And a lot of people automatically go to a picture of a police officer with a gun. That may not be the best way to do it. It could be a trained interventionist. And on talking yesterday with both Chief and JCPS, it's like everybody agrees we want more safety in the school. If we need some type of additional presence, let's sit down and define what that looks like. And I don't think that's clear right now for the community what that would be. We'll never know that, obviously. Any way that we can help create safer conditions in schools is what we want to focus on.